The Weddings by Annabel podcast. This is the whys, not just the whats, behind weddings. Based in the UK's Cumbria and the Lake District, me and others invite you to join a conversation about the highs and lows, the delights and the concerns faced by anyone planning a wedding. Hi, welcome along to episode 8 of the Weddings by Annabel podcast. It's just me today, Annabel coming live from Cumbria. And today I'm going to be focusing on the topic that cannot be avoided when planning any kind of event, which is admin, or it's very cutely referred to as wed-min. You've got to remember that when you're planning a wedding, this is basically event management. So if it at all feels daunting when you're going through the admin process, don't worry. It's not supposed to be that easy because you are hopefully only going to be doing this once. You probably never, even if you plan events for a living, it's different when you're planning them for yourself with your money, your friends, your connections, your expectations, all of that. It does become quite stressful at parts. I hope that with people like me in the world, we can make the process a lot simpler. And hopefully this podcast gives you a bit of some hints and tips as to make that a little bit less stressful. But let's focus today on good old wed-min. So I'm going to go through a few things that might help you, if you haven't already done them before, just make that process a little bit easier. First thing is, of course, a list. You need a really flipping good list. This could be in paper format. This could be a good old spreadsheet. This could be a whole file of paperwork. However works best for you. I love a spreadsheet because it's much easier to edit and have sums and all of that. By the way, you can download my super spreadsheet on my website now for £2.50. But if you want to create your own, it has to be able to adapt through time. So as your plans kind of develop, they will get more complicated. There'll be more details to put in there. So don't worry about starting it and it having to be perfect, because all you need is to be able to adapt as you go through. There are so many different templates and all kinds of things out there. So have a look and find the right kind of list management that suits your style of organisation. It might be as well that when you're going through this process, it can become quite kind of frustrating when you have to duplicate information. So when you're starting off with the list, try to keep it so that you're not just repeating yourself on numerous bits of paper or on different tabs on a spreadsheet. Try to simplify and think about how you're realistically going to use that information and make it so that every time you tick something off, it feels brilliant. I love, on the plans I do with my clients, everything in red hasn't been done yet, and when you mark it to black, it feels great. And there is a lovely bit of dollop of satisfaction in doing that. Okay, so lists. Sounds straightforward, right? Next thing is your priorities. I go on about this a lot, but it's because you can be so bamboozled by so many options that if you don't really focus down on what is important, you're going to end up trying to tick off everything all at the same time. And the level of admin that can come from little details can grow and grow. Whereas really your admin time needs to be focused on the things that are your priorities. If you know that something is a nice to have, move it down the list. Make sure that you have pointed out that if that thing doesn't happen, it's okay. Remember that your guests, they don't know everything that's supposed to be on that plan. They don't know everything that might have been. So as long as you get your priorities laid out and ticked off, then all of the other bits and pieces, nobody's going to miss that. So yeah, set your priorities and stick to it. Another thing that I've noticed is, you know, and everybody's different, but if I have stuff that's rattling around my head, I know that I get sleepless nights. I wake up thinking, oh, I must remember that, and then it rattles around. So I take this from my lovely mother. She used to always have a notepad by the bed, just in case there is that one thing that just is so disruptive to your stress levels. So have a notebook. Again, I've made one. You can get it on good old Amazon. There is a journal as well as just somewhere to write down things as you come across them. Every time you then sit down with your list, you can go back to your notebook to make sure that that stuff is then put into the list. And you know then that you're up to date with your processes and your head is nice and free of those little worries. Okay, the next thing I would do is actually walk through your plans, but from different people's points of view. So a lot of people in events realise that trying to tick off everything is trying to kind of satisfy the needs of many different parties involved. So if you could walk through the plan of your, not just the day, maybe it's the weekend, maybe it's the setup, it's the D-rig, all of that kind of elements around the day, walk through it from a supplier's point of view. So every time you chat with a supplier, talk through what they're going to be doing, what they need from you or the site or other suppliers, what times that's going to happen. You don't need to micromanage them. You know, they want to do a good job, or I hope they do anyway. They want to do a good job, but to support that and to make sure that you've ticked off everything that might affect how good a job they do is walk through it. So, for example, you have a florist and you say, okay, when do we need to have our first consultation? When do we have our last one? When do payments need to be made? Then is there anything that you need to know from the site? So that when you arrive on whichever day, please tell me which one, do they need to have somebody there? Is it just to have a look around? On the day, what time are you arriving? What do you need? Do you need access to a green bin and some water? When are you coming to pick this up, and can I tell the venue when that is, and do you need access or can they leave the stuff outside? Walk through it with them so that, yeah, you're kind of ironing out any potential issues, but it means the fluidity of your event is dramatically improved. So walk through it with them. Then think about the guest journey. So I always use if you've got great Auntie Flo as a great example. So does she know how she's getting to the venue or the ceremony? Does she know how she's getting back home? When she gets to the venue, she's got a big present. Even though you said not to do presents, people do bring them. And a card. Where are they going? Is it obvious? Is it accessible for anybody who has got mobility issues? Is it obvious where the toilets are? I mean, the good thing is they should only need to find it once, and then you're set. Do they know when they're going to eat next? Can they get water, because you've booked glorious weather? So where's the water? Do they know who they're sitting with? Is it easy? Is that flow of the day easy for them? Walk through the process of the event with a certain set of guests in mind. Yeah, walk it through. Next is, I've learned this the hard way, I think, but keeping your plans actually up to date. It's all well and good creating that first list, which I love that feeling. I am a starter. I love that kind of, let's get going on this project. Great. But you've got to remember that to stay on top of this and for your own kind of well-being, you need to keep those lists, that notebook, anything up to date. And this definitely includes your budget. If you want to remain calm and tick everything off, keep going back to it, update it, copy and paste information into it. Just make it that is your hub. You don't have to rifle through emails. You don't need to look back every time you have a chat with a supplier. That plan, it's there and easy, and it will make you feel on top of it no matter what you're doing. And as things kind of gear up towards the day and you get all kinds of other random queries, mainly from guests at that point, you feel like you're on top of things. The other thing I would say is that sharing tasks can be a wonderful way to not only obviously get things ticked off, but to involve people, to make them feel like they're part of the whole celebration, that they've helped you out. It makes people feel good. Most of the time they want to help you too, so don't feel bad. Right? If you want to ask them to come and, can you take on making these, I don't know, paper pom-poms on the morning of the wedding, ask. Just ask. This is why you have these people around you. In one episode I talked about your wedding team, and the fact that you've picked these people shows that they mean something to you. But flip it the other way around, they care about you too. So ask the question. If you're starting to hit stumbling blocks and you're starting to get worried, stressed about any of the things that are on those lists, just ask. And you know what, if it comes down to it, obviously there's people like me in the world who you can share out the tasks to, or you can sit and go through the list with them and just go, does this sound okay? Am I up to the right level that I should be at this point in time? Have I thought of everything? Ask for help. This isn't a test. You don't get scores at the end of it. You just get memories, and if those memories of being really stressed and just wanting to get the wedding over and done with, it's not worth it. So ask. Get help, get advice. Don't learn from your own mistakes. Learn from other people's experiences. Another thing that I have loved being part of the kind of new horizon for the wedding industry is, in the last few years, wedding websites have become more and more popular. I would recommend this to any client. It's whether you are technically minded or not. I think that if you've got over probably 50 guests, this is a worthwhile thing. Most of them are free to set up or very cheap, but it's a great way to just put all of that information that used to go in like an invite that was the size of a book, now goes onto a free website. So all you need to do is, on the save the date, you could just put a link or even a QR code. You can then, the invite can just be one beautiful card where you're not rinsing all your budget on this lengthy document. It can just be beautiful with a link on. But at least with the wedding website, you can constantly keep updating that. You can add in all of the links to accommodation, to transportation, to, I don't know, if you want to add in details about you two, or events that you might be putting on for the night before or the day after. Then the most wonderful part is the RSVPs. So not only do they just go onto the website to click a few buttons, but you can gather information from each one of them. So the name of their plus one, dietary requirements, they could request a song, they could share a funny memory, anything you want, and then all of that is downloadable so that whoever your caterer is, you can just fire that through to them and all the information's there. It's also a great way to start looking at your table plan because you have the list and that's a confirmed list. So yeah, wedding websites, blooming brilliant. Get one. There's a few that I've had experience with, links on my website. But sometimes you might have been sent links to ones that you think, ooh, this actually feels really good. It's easy to navigate. Go back to those ones and see if you can set up your own via that site as well. Another little kind of pre-planning bit of advice is, before the wedding, anything that you are packing up in terms of not just your personal belongings, all the right things for getting ready and change clothes and all of that, but anything that you're bringing for the wedding itself. So if you are supplying the stationery or the favours or some of the decor or whatever it is, bear in mind that what I often refer to as Friday Faff Day, sometimes there's too many chefs. It's very nice that there's lots of people to help. Nobody's dissing that. But giving them clear direction of how to help and giving them tasks will ease the burden on you two as a couple. So when you're packing this stuff up, pack it up really carefully and label it clearly. Not only does this help with everybody who's trying to help, but when you are packing everything back up, then anybody who's helping you do that too, everything goes back where it comes from. Then when you get home, you're either storing it or selling it or whatever. It makes that end process so much nicer, because you will be shattered. The whole celebration is physically and emotionally taxing in all the best ways. So when you get home and you're starting to unpack and it's kind of the side of the wedding, then make that so it's not just a sad, grim admin task. Try and have that pre-thought to prepare, not just for the day, but for the aftermath as well. Okay. That's all I've got down. I'm sure there's absolutely tons more. And I think if you have any tips and advice and you want to share it, then head over to the Instagram or pop me an email even. Or if you're really struggling and none of this makes sense and you're just hating it and it's just not your thing, then get in touch. That's what people like me are around for. I love a bit of Wedmin. I think it feels great because you know that you're gearing up towards something totally worth it. I hope that's been of help. Thank you very much for listening. The next episode will be episode 9, and it's on entertainment. And I'm going to be chatting with the Hustle wedding band, also part of Dirtbag Entertainment. And we're going to go through all the things you need to think about when you are looking at the musical elements of your wedding day. So tune in. Thank you so much for listening. Keep following along and hopefully you'll hear me soon. Thanks! If you would like some further advice or help or more information on Weddings by Annabel, or would like to be involved in the podcast, then email us via the website weddingsbyannabel.co.uk or find us on Instagram, Facebook or LinkedIn. Okay, bye!